Good morning. My name is Lexi, and our opening words for today comes from Beth LaFleur. We are whole. We are whole even in broken places, even where it hurts. We are whole even in broken places, the places where fear impedes our full encouragement with life, where self-doubt corrupts our self-love, where shame makes our faces hot and our soul cold. We are whole even in those places where perfectionism blunts the joy of full immersion into person, places, activities where good enough does not reside, except in our silent longings, where our gaps must be fast filled with sustenance, accomplishments, or franchise activity, lest they gape open and disgust. We're whole where we would doubt our own goodness, richness, fullness, and depth, where we would doubt our own significance, our own profoundness. We are whole even in our frailty, even where we feel fragmented, alone, insubstantial, insufficient. We are whole even in our frailty, even where we feel fragmented, alone, insubstantial, insufficient. We are whole even as we are in process, even as we stumble, even as we pick ourselves up again, for we are whole. We are whole.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to do a reading by Reverend Diane Woolert, Minister of the Canadian Unitarian Council. It is called Welcome Hearts. Come, hearts that are open and hearts that are closed by trials and by sorrows, lost in misgivings. Come, seekers, searching for answers, for respite, or a space to unleash your joy. Here all are welcome. No excuses are needed, nor explanations. Bring your whole heart and let it be touched. As we light our chalice, this is the symbol of our faith. This moment belongs to each of us.
Our church home sits upon the traditional homeland of the Tonga, Chumash, and Tavanti people. The statement reminds us that they are the original keepers and protectors of this land. We state this land acknowledgement in solidarity with Native tribes across the world, and because of our UU commitment to build a global community of peace, love, and justice. Let it be known that land acknowledgements are a praise and acknowledgement of the land by way of the people that live here, both historically and in the present, who are still suffering under the weight of colonization. Today, LA County is home to the largest indigenous population in the United States. May we recognize the complexities woven in our past, present, and future.
enough is enough. Gonna lift up the people who lift me up. Gonna ride with the people who share the load. Leave the haters and the fakers on the side of the road. Gonna be with the people who believe in me. Gonna stand by the people who stand by me. Gonna work with the people who work for peace. Gonna lend them a little of my elbow grease. I'll walk with the people, walking hand in hand. Gonna stand with the people who take a stand. I'm gonna dream with the people who dream of light. Sing a lullaby to chase away the night. Tie myself to the people who set me free. Gonna stand by the people who stand by me. Gonna work with the people who work for peace. Gonna lend them a little of my elbow grease. I'll walk with the people, walking hand in hand. Gonna stand with the people who take a stand. I'm going back to the people who have my back. Leave the haters and the fakers along the side of the track. Took me way too long to say enough is enough. Gonna lift up the people who lift me up. 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 Lift me up.
Christina, you're muted.
Good morning. My name is Christina Mathers, and my pronouns are she and her. I am an at-large member of the UUCSC Board of Trustees. Thank you for deciding to spend your Sunday morning with us. While we regret that we cannot sit side by side in the sanctuary, we can still journey together spiritually, thanks to the technical wizards among us and Zoom. We hope that what you find here today nourishes you spiritually, challenges you intellectually, and increases your sense of community. And we look forward to the day when we can fully return to church and continue our quest in person. Unitarian Universalists are people of all ages, coming from many different backgrounds and holding a variety of religious beliefs. We are brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We create spirituality and community without relying on dogma, and we encourage each other's search for truth. We welcome you in all your complexity and inconsistencies, your hopes and your fears. Bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, your expansive heart. We have one announcement this morning. UUCSC is about to embark on a search for an interim minister. Anyone who is interested in serving on the interim ministerial search committee should let me know by January 23rd. We are tasked with forming a committee of 4 or 5 people from different UUCSC constituencies. My email is easy to remember because it is my name at Gmail. ChristinaMathers@gmail. This group will work closely with the congregation, the UUA Office of Congregational Life, and the Transitions Office. It will meet frequently from February 1st until this summer. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Antoinette, and my pronouns are she, her, and they, theirs. Our reading today, our call to worship, comes from a reading from the 7 Principles in Story and Verse, a collection for children and adults. And it's from the 2nd chapter, specifically on affirming equity, justice, and compassion in human relations. And it states, Lucy Stone was a Unitarian who fought courageously her whole life for the cause of equity, among other things. Unitarian Universalists are proud of her and others like her in our history, both the famous and the unknown, the men and women, clergy and lay, who worked collectively and courageously, sometimes silently and without recognition, for the day when equity could be taken for granted as part of our human heritage. They were important and powerful Unitarian Universalist, abolitionist, and suffragist. Some lived to see the abolition of slavery become a reality, while some lived to see women finally able to vote, and some, like Lucy Stone, did not. There were Unitarian Universalists in the struggle for humane treatment of the mentally ill, and there were Unitarian Universalists for the freedom riders in Alabama and Mississippi. There have been Unitarian Universalists in almost every struggle for equal and humane treatment of human beings, and we are very proud of our record in the struggle for equity. Thank you.
I am that great and fiery force, sparkling in everything that lives, in shining of the river's course, in greening grass that glory gives. I shine in glitter on the seas, in burning sun, in moon and stars, in unseen wind, in verdant trees. I breathe within, both near and far. And where I breathe, there is no death, and meadows glow with beauties rife. I am in all the Spirit's breath, the thundered word, for I am life.
It's now time for words of covenant. You know the words, say them with me. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. Together we dwell together in peace and seek knowledge and freedom to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant.
Good morning. I am Nicole Thibodeau, she, her. I am not listed in your order of service. The internet makes it very difficult to yell, "Hold the press," when everything is published with a push of a button. So here we are. Some of us might not remember a time before we celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. I learned about him when I was 10 years old and was bused into Madrona Elementary School in Seattle, Washington. I didn't know it, but I was participating in the desegregation of the Seattle school system. Once my family moved back to Hawaii, the news of the struggle to establish Martin Luther King Jr. Day kind of faded into the distance. So I never noticed who was really responsible for establishing this national holiday. We found this video clip on the biography website that explains how it happened. We hope you enjoy it.
After Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968, there were numerous attempts to make Martin Luther King Day a national holiday, his birthday, and every bill that went before Congress failed. And this sort of infuriated Stevie Wonder.
He was determined to make Martin Luther King Day, and took off 2 or 3 years of his life, worked for it, campaigned for it tirelessly.
The first bill to declare Dr. King's birthday a national holiday was introduced in 1968, and it was brought up every year for over a decade. But there was resistance from powerful conservatives like North Carolina Senator Jesse Helms. By 1980, Stevie was ready to take on the fight that was already a decade in the making, and he had his work cut out for him.
Stevie didn't send a check, Stevie came. He took the risk. He'd come to the marches, he'd come to the rallies. That was the difference with Stevie. So Stevie was an activist in his own right.
On Martin Luther King's birthday in 1982, Stevie Wonder organized a rally for peace where he had Gladys Knight, Diana Ross, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He organized them all to do a march on Washington, if you will, and 50,000 protesters came out in support of making Martin Luther King Day a national holiday. Stevie Wonder performed, he gave the final speech, he went before Congress, he got petitions signed. I mean, he really went to the wall.
We still want that holiday. Dr. King did not speak for all Black people or all Hispanics. He spoke the truth, which represented every living American member of the melting pot.
Stevie's resolution paid off. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a federal bill making January 20th, the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a federal holiday.
Stevie almost single-handedly got Congress to approve Martin Luther King's birthday as a national holiday. And I think that is a major accomplishment.
But Stevie wasn't done changing the world.
While we cannot gather in our beloved church building, we can still gather together in this virtual space to share our joys and sorrows. In these unprecedented times, we remember that it is the people of this congregation, the people who gather in this in covenant with one another, and not the building that defines who we are. If you have a joy or sorrow, now is the time to put it in the chat room, preceded by the letters J and or S. When a sorrow is shared, it is lessened, and when a joy is shared, it is multiplied. In that spirit, Greg Golden has both a sorrow and a joy. All the turmoil in our little community is the sorrow. Joy, all my people who are still holding on to each other. Marilyn Shield has a joy that Babu Shankar is remaining with us all at UUCSC. I join with that. Rochelle Lamb, sorrow so saddened that my new friend Joyce Fiedler decided to walk away from her church home of 30 plus years. We end by honoring all the joys and sorrows kept in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May we all be warmed in the embrace of community.
Before I say our prayer meditation, before I start, I just want to acknowledge that there were two other joys and sorrows in the chat. One is from Jolly. I'm nervous that I have to travel in person back to Minnesota for my water protector hearing. There's a lot of danger. And a joy from Pam, a GoFundMe account for Claudia, our beloved long-term administrator. And now I would like to read this beautiful prayer written and said by Dr. Martin Luther King. Help us to discover ourselves. And then afterwards, I will ring the bell once so we can start a minute of meditative silence. And then I will ring the bell one more time. O God, our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank thee for all of the insights of the ages, and we thank thee for the privilege of having fellowship with thee. Help us to discover ourselves, to discover our neighbors, and to discover thee, and to make all part of our life. Grant that we will grow now with the grim and bold determination to live the complete life. In the name of the Spirit of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
The highest honor I've ever had in my life is putting a key in the door where Martin Luther King Jr. put a key, because that is a symbol of unlocking the world for humanity. And I always say, welcome to where the kings lived, loved, and sacrificed to make the world a better place for everybody. Martin Luther King pretty much said you had to do two things in order to be free. You have to forgive everybody for everything they've ever done to you, and number two, you have to lose your fear of death. Not how long you live, but how well you live. And so he lost his fear of death in his kitchen around midnight on January 27, 1956, where Dr. King received his epiphany after he received a threatening phone call. We're tired of you and your mess now. And they're talking about the Montgomery bus boycott. And if you're not out of this town in 3 days, we're gonna blow your house up and blow your brains out. And he went in that kitchen and he said himself, with fears creeping up on his soul, he went in that kitchen to try to figure out how to get out of Montgomery without appearing to be a coward. And something happened when he started to pray out loud. And then he heard that voice, that inner voice, call him by name. Martin Luther, stand up for truth, stand up for justice, and stand up for righteousness. Martin Luther King Jr. could have hidden in the crowd with everybody else, but because he was such a man of character, he couldn't say no. He couldn't say, he had a choice. He had a choice. Martin Luther King, as I mentioned, had a privileged life. He didn't have to do what he did, but he said in his own words, I'm trying to do what is right. I'm losing my courage, but I'm trying to do what is right.
Each of us is here today because the Unitarian Universalist Church of Studio City matters to us. That is why so many members and friends are hard at work on myriad initiatives. Every corner of the physical and the virtual church is alive with energy and effort. We are working to iron out our differences respectfully because we all want the church to thrive. Two things are required for this goal: manpower and money. Please be as generous as you are able, and remember how important it is to fulfill any pledge you have made. You can donate online or send a check via snail mail. Thank you.
Let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King and recognize that there are ties between us, all men and women living on the earth, ties of hope and love, of sister and brotherhood, that we are bound together by our desire to see the world become a place in which our children can grow free and strong. We are bound together by the task that stands before us and the road that lies ahead. We are bound and we are bound. There is a feeling like the clenching of a fist. There is a hunger in the center of the chest. There is a passage through the darkness and the mist. And though the body sleeps, the heart will never rest.
Shed a little light, oh
Shed a little light, oh Lord,
so that we can see. Just a little light, oh Lord.
Shed a little light, oh my Lord.
Wanna stand it on up.
Stand it on up, oh Lord.
Stand it on up, oh Lord. Wanna walk it on down. Shed a little light, oh Lord. Can't get no light from a dollar bill.
Give me no light from a dollar bill.
Don't give me no light from a TV screen.
No, 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 no.
When I open my eyes, I wanna take my fill from the well on the hill.
I know you know what I mean.
Shed a little light, oh Lord.
Shed a little light, oh my Lord,
so that we can see.
Now, now.
Just a little light, oh Lord.
Just a little light, oh my Lord.
Wanna stand it on up.
Stand it on up, oh Lord.
Stand it on up, oh Lord. Wanna walk it on down. Shed a little light, oh Lord.
Just a little light, oh my Lord, now. There is a feeling like the clenching of a fist. There is a hunger in the center of the chest. There is a passage through the darkness and the mist. And though the body sleeps, the heart will never rest. Oh, let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King and recognize that there are ties between us, all men and women living on the earth, ties of hope and love, of sister and brotherhood.
So I had not seen that yet. I just need to take a minute to breathe as we're all going through this. I also love that I am able to go through and talk about some of these things. And I want to address the tiny bit of dialogue that's happening in the chat. And I really do think it's important. I sort of weighed it out, right? Like, do I say a prayer that he has done? All of his prayers, I want to let you know, there's this beautiful book that I used that you can't see very well. And it's called Thou Dear God, Prayers That Open Hearts and Spirits. And it's a collection of his prayers. And there is not one in here that does not say to Jesus or to Christ, or, he was very much a traditional Christian, a Baptist Methodist preacher. And so that shows up in the work that he does and the work that he did. And what I really love about being able to celebrate his life on the same day that we're talking about justice, equity, compassion is that it like flows together really well, right? Like he's got the struggles that he went through are similar to the struggles that I feel like I'm going through now as a Black person and an activist in 2022. And I think that most people think of activism as like one thing, right? Most people think of protesting and getting out there and, making some noise. But activism is so much more than simply going to a protest or going to a rally or going to a march. And I think that it's really important that people can see and understand that activism is lots of different things, right? It is this that you see in front of you, but it's also feeding people, and it's also showing up and standing out for what you believe in and what you care about. And I want to demystify the idea that you have to be an activist to also stand for justice, equity, and compassion. I sort of want to demystify the understanding that it is some over there thing or some out there thing that we do or that anyone does because of activism. And I want to read you a short quote from the president of the UUA, her name is Susan Frederick Gray. And she says, in talking about justice and equity, she says, there are those who mistakenly believe that justice is the heart of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. What I so appreciate about the work that we do, the understanding to our theology, is that there is a connectedness that comes first. Our work for justice and equity, our work to dismantle white supremacy culture, racism, and oppression in ourselves and in our world is the faithful response to our theology of interdependence. And so what that means to me is that when we talk about justice, equity, and compassion, it is a response to our first principle of inherent worth and dignity. And so if you're in the world and of the world and you're, following, even something small, right? Something as small as someone dropping something on the ground, losing their keys somewhere, money falling out of their wallet, and you say, hey, this is the thing, right? Doesn't this belong to you? That's a piece of knowing that we're all connected and together and working to do this. And so I don't think about myself as an activist, and I surely don't think that Martin Luther King Jr. saw himself as an activist simply because of fighting for justice, in quotes. It was the push to do the thing to end injustice. It was the equity and compassion that you're fighting for, that you're working towards, that we're moving ahead with, that says, well, I know that that's what I want, and so therefore I need to be out there in the world. And a lot of times people ask, well, what do you do? How do you do it? How do you get up? How do you make that go? How do you keep moving forward? And I love this tweet by Prison Culture. And the actual person is Marina Cava. And many of you have seen her or heard her speak, and she talks about abolition work now. And regularly, the questions are, what resources exist, right? What is the thing that's already out there? Don't go make a new thing if you want to get involved in a thing. I bet you someone's already doing it. And who's doing it, right? So find the people that you can work with. Don't create a new thing to pull resources in multiple directions. Do you have the capacity, or do I have the capacity to do the thing, the support that people really need? And how can I be constructive? And all of this leads me to think about intentionality. Being intentional about our decisions, about our thoughts, about the ways in which we show up. This tweet right here shows that we can be intentional in our justice work. We can be of service and not just doing service. We can show up. And I used to think, I want to say 2 years ago when I started doing a lot of protesting, I would just show up and I would say, I'm just going to be a body. Like, I'm going to show up at a protest and I just need to be one more person. And then I started to think, well, I could just be one more person at a protest, but I could also be one more person at a food bank. I could be one more body, you know, that stands up at the grocery store when someone is being mistreated by someone else, right? Like, it doesn't have to be these big, intrusive pieces. It really just has to be the work that you are called to do. And so I commend people when they are called to do the types of work that I would never even think about, right? I'm so happy that there are people who are called to do the myriad of tasks that go into doing justice work every single day. I am so thankful for groups in our church, right? Like, the Gun Violence Prevention Promise group was called to action. And that is standing in service with what you are called to do when you see injustice. And it is phenomenal to me that we can do these things and we could be these people and we can live through all that is happening right now, because right now is really, really hard. And I know it is, whether it's justice outside of our church or justice inside of our church or outside of your neighborhood or inside of your house. It's really hard. And I commend you for staying on track and staying together, because part of the justice, equity, and compassion piece of being Unitarian Universalist is working together so that we can end injustice. And so this last piece right here, I know this has been really short actually, but this last piece, you know, when you are an activist, and that means when you are a person fighting for justice, the people you're fighting against will fight you. The people you're fighting with will fight you. And the people you are fighting for will fight you. And just remember that if you are willing to be of service and to do the work that you are called to do the work that we are all called to do together for justice, equity, and compassion, we'll make it through. And so I leave you with that to our final and closing hymn.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers, sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers, sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be just one in the number as we stand against tyranny. To me, young people come first. They come first. They have the courage where we fail. If I can just shine a light on as they carry us through the gale. We who believe in freedom cannot rest.
Our benediction comes from Theodore Parker. Yeah. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all spaces, its shrine a good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith, divine living. Thank you.
May all who come to serve be blessed at this time. We now extinguish our light.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like